Welcome back to another episode of the Life of Elvis podcast. I'm your host, Elvis, and I've been gone for a long time. I will explain exactly what's been going on in a separate video, which will come out in a few days. So keep an eye out for that. Now, before we get to our guest today, sorry, how do you pronounce your surname?
Rogge.
Rogge. Okay, I wasn't sure. I'm just gonna cut out this a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
I will give a shout out to our new sponsor, Terra Vitality, which is a health and wellness hub dedicated for you, to you being your most free, healthy, and happy you. Right now, we are offering organic T-shirts designed by some of our guests that were on our podcast previously, and we are building up our services. So if you're interested, if you want to know something more about it, there's a link in the description, and you can message me anywhere on social media. Also, link in the description below. We are also working together with Project Child Safe, which is a charity that goes directly rescue kids from being trafficked by human traffickers. Now, all the donations go directly to these missions. None of it goes into someone's pocket. They are all volunteers. So I highly encourage you to go into the description, donate below. Part of the profit of the services of Terra Vitality go directly to Project Child Safe. So by you trying to be your best self, you're also helping others. So thank you very much for the support. And now let's get to the show. Our guest today is Jess Rogge. We had some good conversation going on via email, so we're looking forward to this one. So welcome on the podcast.
Thank you, Elvis. I'm really excited. No, we've been having some great conversations back and forth this week. Yeah, and it's been a long time coming. We were trying to do this back in, I don't know, January. So
Yeah,
with your break and then my break, and now finally we've made it, and I'm really excited to be here. I figured let me tell a little bit about myself to your audience.
go for it.
My name is Jess Rogge. I've hosted several podcasts over the years. Um, I initially started in this field because I was a broadcast journalism major in college. And I started to get into shows like Coast to Coast and really got into the strange and the supernatural and the kind of the unknown, which led me to producing a podcast for a well known paranormal radio host, which led to me creating my own podcast, which I did for several years. And then I started doing the Rogge Report news for the Fringe FM. And from there, I became a live host for that network. And I became a 5 nights a week host, doing 2 hours a night. And now we're kind of cutting it back. So now it's 4 nights a week. But I cover everything. Well, I guess I'm kind of shifting. And we've talked about that too. I'm kind of shifting what the show talks about. Um, and we did a lot. Kind of exploring the nature of reality type of stuff. And we still kind of do that, but we're kind of also going back to the roots of the show where we're kind of talking about some more newsy based things. A little bit conspiracy, but they're not really conspiracies because it's all really true at the end of the day. So that's kind of where we've been. It's been a long journey. I've been doing this for almost 7 years now. So I like to dive into different topics. And most recently, I'm launching kind of a more of a movie based kind of pop culture, kind of totally different realm channel on YouTube as well. So I'm really excited. Lots of fun stuff coming up. And I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on after such a
Thank you.
long time. Finally,
I know.
divine timing, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So, with your podcast being a lot about paranormal and everything, was it coast to coast aim that got you interested in these kinds of topics? Or
I think I had always kind of been interested in like paranormal, kind of out of the realm of normal conversation type of deals. Ever since I was a kid, I was into weird, the weirder things like, ghosts and like learning about different creatures and things like that and people's experiences. So finding Coast to Coast, I think it kind of fed into that. And with my background, I was able to marry the two and kind of, bring forth my own version of the show I listened to and loved.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Have you had any interesting experiences yourself?
See, the thing is, I haven't had anything super, I don't know what, super, nothing really big, nothing that's like, oh my god, I never saw an alien, I've never seen a UFO, I haven't seen like a ghost walk by or anything like that. But there's little things that happen that are strange. I did have one sleep paralysis experience a few years back, that I share sometime. I'll share it right now with you guys. So
Go for it, yeah.
I was sleeping, right, and I kind of woke up, and coming towards me is like these blacker than black shadows, right, and you can kind of see the silhouette of a head, right, and there were several of them coming towards me, and they were starting to envelop all the all this. There's not a lot of light at night, right, but you can still see, but it was enveloping all the light. And as it moved towards me, I started to get more scared. And then I realized I couldn't move. And so what I did, and the funny thing is, what I did was I started to call out to Jesus for help, right? And here's the thing, too, I'm not Christian. I was not raised Christian. So I don't really have this Christian background or belief system. But once I started to be able to ask for his help, the the blackness started to pull away, and I started to be able to move again.
Hmm.
Strange experience? Yeah, very strange. Can I explain it? Probably sleep paralysis. You know what I mean? A lot of people have experiences during sleep paralysis.
Yeah, that's true, but it's hard to tell whether it's just a dream or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to
Uh,
tell.
yeah, because I really like asking people like whether they had some kind of experience themselves. I think for the past 10 years or so, I've started getting into a habit of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, people do tell you something, and especially if you know them, you can tell if they're BSing you or not. And I can tell like for the most part, um, yeah, they were telling the truth. What happened, and was this just like as you were waking up, or when you falling asleep, or?
Oh, I was woken up, and it happened.
Hmm. Right, interesting. And I know that this the state when you're just falling asleep, but you're not asleep yet, in between or other way around.
Yeah.
That's when some interesting stuff is happening. It's yeah, I remember reading a book. I actually never finished it for some reason. It was about Tibetan Buddhism,
Hmm.
and I remember him mentioning that just like as you die, the moment, the in between states from one state of consciousness to the other, those are like he he mentioned that it's similar like when you're getting changed, the moment when you are just naked in between,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's when some interesting stuff is happening. For example, I knew someone, and this was a younger person, like, and she somehow I don't know how she figured it out or anything, but she was able to, as she was drifting away to sleep, to get herself into a different state where she ended up in this other space. I don't know what exactly it was. She had 360 vision, and she ended up encountering these beings, which were like the closest description you can imagine were either DMT elves, which
Mm-hmm.
people that take DMT would supposedly encounter, or biblically correct depictions of angels, something like that. And when she was describing to us, like to me and my ex, I was like, "Where did you get this information from?" you know, Interesting stuff. And actually, my dad also, just before I left Slovakia, when I moved out of there, he told us about this encounter which he had when I was just going to elementary school. So it's going to be close to 20 years or so. I mean, in the meantime, he already passed away. But before I left, he said that also as he was drifting asleep, he was in this corridor. I was like pretty long. At the
Mhm.
end of it, there was a table, just like I'm sitting behind one, and someone was sat on a chair with his back to my dad.
Ooh.
Suddenly, that person looked around, and he said that the eyes of that person, or whatever the hell it was, were just super evil.
Oh.
He even said like it wasn't like a gray alien type of eyes. He said in his own words that those are kind of cute or something like. He can't like them for some reason, which I don't understand. But
Interesting.
yeah,
That is. Huh.
and then this person's like came at him like pretty fast, and when he
Mm-hmm.
was just like here, my dad woke up.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and there
That's
was,
interesting.
and then he said that after this, nothing ever worked out for him. Like he would have loads of debts, and he was like, whatever he tried, it never worked out for him. So that was a pretty weird one.
That is really strange. I haven't heard of anything like that where after an experience where it just kind of bad luck or nothing good or positive kind of happened afterwards. That's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yeah, those are some of the things that just came up as I was leaving. It was weird.
Very weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think a lot of people have experiences like in that hypnagogic state or as they're falling asleep or in the dream state. Since you shared a story of your father, it reminded me of a story from my mother.
Hmm.
And she's since passed too, but she used to always, not always, but every once in a while, she would tell me these little beings would come into her room. And I said, "Are they aliens?" And she said, "Well, yeah, they look like aliens, but she said they're like kids. They're little and they're cute." And she said they would like stand at the foot of her bed and laugh and giggle, and then they'd run off. And I was like, "Mom, what are you talking about?" But the funny thing is, like, what I forgot to mention is a lot of this interest in all this is because my mother always had a lot of these strange experiences, and I always wanted to kind of find out more.
Hmm. That's really interesting.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
And she said they were cute, really cute.
I mean, personal preferences, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I just imagine that they're little, like, cute little. I don't know what they look like. She just described them as cute little children, like aliens.
Hmm. I mean, different experiences that describe different kinds of beings. So who knows?
Yes. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
The thing is, we don't know. There's no answer. All we can do is kind of talk about these experiences and try to piece together commonalities.
Yeah. And it's important to share information. Because
Yeah.
for most part, it was just like, if I share something like this, people are going to think I'm crazy or, going to lose my job and all the
Hmm.
rest of it. But especially thanks to the internet and before that, books and TV shows, Coast to Coast AM,
Yeah.
all that stuff. At least show some people that they're not crazy. It's happening to a lot of people, actually.
Yeah. And I think, with the recent developments in the States, even with like the military and people being able to now share their stories and share their experiences so the military can record these things and look back. Because I think we even talked about one of my friends, a guest who became a friend, Omar Laura, who was, I forgot what ship he was on, but it was the ship that the planes took off that saw the Tic Tac, right? And he
Nimitz?
saw the Nimitz, yeah.
Yeah.
So he saw a light shoot up out of the ocean. He was on the deck of the ship, right? And several other gentlemen on the ship saw it too. And one man, he tells a story, just started praying, and people who didn't see it were making fun of the people that did see it, right?
Hmm.
So for years, he wasn't really open about it until these things started coming out back in 2017. And so once that happened, he started to feel more vindicated and he felt like he could share his story now because people weren't going to make fun of him anymore. And I think with that, it allows, normal people, civilians, right, to start sharing these stories as well and not feel like they're going to be ridiculed.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, since 2017, since the article, it was in New York Post, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. And just this latest hearing that happened, I mean, things changed a lot.
Yeah, just from 2017 till now, because I
Yeah,
remember when it was more kooky, it was before 2017 and it was
yeah,
more wild, and now it's just kind of gotten a lot more serious.
yeah. Even just now, I watched a clip a couple of hours ago or so, and it's a one. I think it's like a alternative news network or something,
Hmm.
and I quite like them. They're fairly, they're not very biased one side or the other, and they just talk sense really. Not trying to like show one clip and take things out of context, just like mass media do.
Yeah.
But in this clip, they were talking about, you know, we covered crafts and the non-human biologics that Gosh mentioned
Hmm.
at this congressional hearing, and she was talking about the possibility of people reverse engineering, like which of these sightings were, you know, reverse engineered crafts or not, and stuff like that. And it's like normal news network openly talking about stuff that you would hear like in the middle of the night on some sci-fi channel or something.
Yeah. The shift has been quite crazy, because if you think about it, like, before, when you heard like the Bob Lazar story and him talking about
Yeah,
them having reverse engineered craft, and people were like, oh, this guy's wacky, right? But now they're sharing that, they're saying like, no, we probably have reverse engineered stuff.
yeah. I mean, have you seen the video of him recently? There was this congressional hearing, and I think he was doing some kind of project. I'm not sure what that's about. And this guy asked him like, "What's your message after this hearing?" And I think he was like, "I told you so."
That's great. He probably feels very vindicated
I
after all these
bet.
years, because a lot of people are like, I don't believe Bob Lazar. But now with this coming out, he's like, "Yep, told you so." I haven't seen that video. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's just a very short one on Instagram. But yeah, he was talking about this stuff since '89. So the year I was born.
It's
Yeah,
so long, because like I
yeah,
didn't even know about Bob Lazar until probably after 2000.
really.
Yeah, because I went like, I don't think I really started looking into this stuff after until then. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, I was into this stuff since I was a kid. Yeah, yeah. My dad was also interested in this. Like I remember, Eich von Däniken.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
He had this super old book. He must have bought it in like what 60s, 70s, maybe 80s or so.
Oh, yeah, like a
Yeah,
old.
really old. It was all yellow pages and stuff. It was Eich von Däniken's first book. You
Mm.
know, so maybe that's also part of the reason why I'm interested in this stuff. But since I was a kid, I was always fascinated by all the mysterious stuff, UFOs, all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think Ancient Aliens really brought a lot of Daniken stuff really out into the mainstream, and
Yeah,
helped kind of spread that whole thing, so people became more interested. I don't know when that show came out, but it's been on forever now.
yeah. It's sometimes a bit ridiculous that one because they can't always try kind of like sway towards the ancient alien stuff when it's like maybe maybe not, probably not.
Probably not, but it's
What's
aliens.
yeah, ancient alien theorists suggest.
Yes.
It's like the catchphrase.
Gosh, I haven't seen that show in so long.
Yeah, me either. Just some clips. What's your opinion on the ancient alien theory?
See, it would be see before, right? I was like super like, it is aliens, it's all aliens. But to now, a lot of it, I do wonder if a lot of it is us, lost ancient civilizations with advanced technology, I mean, and then, hearing about all this Younger Dryas stuff, and how, we've had floods and things have been washed away. So is it out of the realm of possibility that, we are misinterpreting it as alien when it was us? I mean, that's also a possibility. So I try to keep my mind open towards it. Maybe they did come here, maybe they didn't. Um, I kind of am leaning as far as like aliens go, not coming from outer space, but being here already in some sort of like lost civilization or interdimensional beings or all of the above.
Yeah. Well, that's also something David Gosh, for those who don't know, what was he? He was involved in some of these three-letter agencies, like, yeah,
Yeah,
top
he was.
secret clearance.
Because I think he was in the UAP task force, but I
Yeah, he
can't
was there
really.
too.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Because I was like, can't
amongst other
remember.
things. Yeah, so he just recently came out. He did a interview on News Nation with Ross Coulthard, saying that he saw credible evidence when it comes. He talked to people who are in crash retrieval programs, reverse engineering, some of that stuff, and he said that the U.S. owns at least a dozen of crashed or otherwise retrieved craft that are not made by humans, and in some cases there were also biologics retrieved.
Mhm.
During the congressional hearing, someone asked him also like why he uses the term non-human intelligence rather than just aliens. Just like his answer was to keep it open because we don't know whether they are coming from another planet or whether they are interdimensional or something like that. Which kind of brings me back to like what your mom was saying. With these beings, like how do we know that it's some beings from another planet or whether there's something else, something more in terms of like bending reality?
Mhm. Yeah,
It's hard to tell.
we don't
Yeah,
know, and I think that's why in the past probably 2 years ago I started on this psychedelic journey and kind of like wanting to explore these other realms and you know kind of see if it ties together somehow because I think in the end of the day somehow it all ties together.
yeah. I was about to also move towards like we were talking about ancient civilizations and everything
Yes.
because some all these old myths, like Erich von Däniken's idea was that all these old myths about gods and all the rest of it, all these legends, that those are old memories of people in the past remembering some kind of a more advanced civilization coming here. In his case, he was saying coming from outer space, so aliens basically. Now, if you look at, for example, like Egyptian gods and everything, like there's like two, at least two. Well, there's a third one if you count a civilization that was way older than that, which was probably the case. I mean, anatomically, modern humans have been around for 300,000 years. What are the odds that civilization would spark only like the last 10,000 years or so? I
Right.
mean, it doesn't make sense. Like, what were these people doing all those years when they had a pretty much the same potential as we have, right? Doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. So there might be some transfer of information from this previous civilization to the newer ones, like Egyptian and the other ones. Now, when it comes to these gods, like possibly it could have been aliens or something like that, and they were depicted in the way they were, or some of these gods were actually some of these entities that people see when they take psychedelics,
Hmm.
right? Because we know that the blue lotus, that was quite a big thing in Egypt, which is psychedelic. And pretty much every civilization, every culture in the past has been using some kind of a psychedelic. Whether it was
Hmm.
the soma in Greece, we got ayahuasca in the rainforest, and lots of other things, in different cultures. And there was some recent evidence that they were using spiked wine in Greece. You know, you can even see some of the instances that were using cannabis in it. you know, you know. So that actually me like learning more in my own experiences as well with psychedelics. That kind of at some point, and also together with the high strangeness that comes with a lot of the having abductions and all the rest of it.
Mhm.
Because it's like the typical experiences that you hear about, like when you get dive really deeper into it, just gets weirder and weirder. And the more authentic experiences from people, they seem to be like very strange and different from what we typically think of a actual, you know, abduction or something like that. Like I was saying, like sometimes it's almost like bending reality, and you just don't know what's gonna happen in really there. Now, so this high strangeness, the psychedelics, and what people encounter when they take them, that got me thinking like, is this really real? Is like what's going on here?
Yeah, right.
Because I remember even like I think it was Graham Hancock or Rick Schussman saying, can't remember which one of them, maybe both. They
Maybe.
were saying, yeah, I think it was doing Rick Schussman's DMT research in the 90s, because he was the first one since like early 70s or so to actually do
Mhm.
some research on these psychedelics. Just he was really lucky to get it through this kind of research. So he was saying in one case, well, there was another case, but this guy, he got a DMT, which is the strongest psychedelic known to humans. They gave it to him intravenously. He was
Ooh.
suddenly in this, yeah, he was suddenly in this other realm. It was like on something like an operating table or something like that. And there were these beings around. It was like very technological, everything. And they were like, we're so happy that you found this technology now. So now we can communicate with each other. It gets you thinking. Even like sometimes people see gray aliens when they take ayahuasca. When you look at Pablo Amaringo's paintings, because he used to be an
Mhm.
ayahuasca, you can see lots of flying saucers on them, things like these.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'll let you talk now. I talked a lot.
I was like, where should I go? I had a guest who's a friend on, and he did extensive, I guess, experimentation with himself in DMT. So much that he tells the story that he was doing it so much, like a lot, right? Like smoking a lot of DMT, like continuously doing it and regularly doing it.
We do
To
not
the point,
recommend any of this to any
no,
people,
not
any
recommended at
listeners.
all. This
Yeah,
is just what this gentleman did, but he says this the like when he was doing it so much, he got pulled up and a female entity, and what he assumes was like the mother of DMT or whatever, comes to him and kind of goes through like this like kind of pushes through, and it's like plasticky, and she pushes through and she grabs him and she says, you need to stop, like you're overdoing it, and she kind of shoves him and he goes right back into his body. So he wasn't respecting the psychedelic, so she got mad at him and she told him, no, you got to go back, which I found kind of interesting. That was the one of the more interesting stories I heard. But going back to like gods and stuff, right? It's interesting because we real or not, right? I've had a couple experiences doing psilocybin, right? Mushrooms,
hmm
microdosing, and kind of not quite, not like big doses, but more of a macro dose, I suppose. And during these times, I was working with plant medicine, so I was, I was taking time to meditate while I was doing these things, right? And there's one instance, and I'm not, I'll preface this by saying I'm not super familiar with a lot of Egyptian gods that aren't like the big ones, right? So I was feeling unwell, and I had taken, I'm not going to say how much because we're not instructing you guys how to do this, but we're just talking about experiences. And so I went to lay down, and in my meditation, in my mind's eye, I just start seeing all these colors and beautiful colors. And this lion headed goddess pops out with a big headdress. And she starts communicating with me. And she says, my name is Sekhmet. And she said a bunch of stuff. Now I can't remember, but what she did was essentially kind of heal my stomach, that which was bothering me. And then when I came out of the meditation, I felt much better. That's one, and then I got the big one, the more fun one.
Hmm.
So, real or not, coincidence or not, I don't know if this is true. Not true, but I don't know if it's connected. But it happened more than once. So during my usage, because I did it, I have not a heavy, but regularly for 2 years. I try to document as much as possible using these things, right? And so one day I take a microdose, and I was hanging out here with my sister, and it started to rain, right? It started to rain outside, and so I said, I hear thunder outside. And I said, well, and I'm not pagan or anything either. So, and then I say, Hail Thor, something along the lines to honor Thor. And then the thunder just starts going, boom, 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 right? And I was like, that can't be. I'm gonna go outside. So my sister's sitting in here, and I go out front, and I'm like, Thor, if you're real, show me. And so the sky starts to get angry, 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 and it starts to shoot lightning. And the lightning hit just one street over, but you could feel the electricity in the air, and it felt like it was getting closer and closer. So I ran back in the house. My sister looks at me, she goes, what did you do? And I said, well, I called out Thor. And she's like, you probably shouldn't do that, right? And so I was like, well, we don't know, right? Oh, I'm sorry. It started hailing above my house, hailing, like lots of hail all over. And I look outside after, I run outside after it's passed, and you could see like hail just kind of like heavier on my house versus every other house, just because I kind of talk shit, and I just wanted to see. So so that was one incident, right? So a couple months later, I'm uh I'm sitting here, I'm listening to a late night radio show, right? I hear thunder again. I'm like, all right, let me see. So I go to this window up by my the front of the house, and I go, well, I said, Thor, if you're real, let's see it. And the thunder and lightning starts coming closer and closer and closer, and it strikes the pole at the end of my street, and shut down power for like a whole day. We didn't have power. You could see the power pole just destroyed.
Yeah.
So coincidence or not, that happened twice. So the third time a thunderstorm came, I said, Thor, I respect you. I respect your power. I'm not going to challenge you anymore. And the thunder started to pull away and started to move off. So, true or not, I messed with it 3 times during my psychedelic kind of experiments. So, does it allow you to connect with the gods? I don't know. But it is an interesting story, and I have no proof. I know my sister was here when I did it. Um, but that second time, when the thunder and lightning got really angry, it got to the point where I unplugged my computer, I grabbed my dogs, I closed the door, and we went in the hallways because I was afraid it was going to hit, because it set a fire at the end of the street. And then the fire department came. And so,
Hmm.
coincidence? I don't know, but I've lived in this house a very long time, and that's never happened before.
It's for sure interesting.
Interesting. It's all we can
Yeah.
say, right? Can't prove anything, just interesting. Coincidence?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's really hard to probably never know, really. But I've got an interesting coincidence, I guess, for you. When you were talking about the previous experience with Sekhmet, I was like, hold on, that sounds kind of familiar. So I did a quick search on YouTube. There's a really good YouTuber that I'm following, Johanna James, and
Mhm.
Funny Old World. She's from the UK. And I remember she had a video, and I was like, about the statue. She went to Egypt, and a lot of her stuff is about Egypt. So I was like, hold on, was so I looked it up, and yes, she did. I think she did actually 2 videos about this weird statue of Sekhmet. It's can't remember exactly where in Egypt it is, But it was such a strange thing. I mean, I can send it to you later,
Yeah, please
the
do.
video, or maybe I can put it even into the description so people can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, she went there, and it's a very dark room or whatever it is. It's like a fairly big statue, Egyptian, very old, and weird stuff is happening around it. Like,
Mm.
for example, when yeah, they try to take a picture, and two pictures taken like straight after each other or something like that. Each one of them on an iPhone, like one of the latest models, like for last 3 years or so. They were showing different location. Then they were using also professional cameras. Many times there was one that was just like white, the photo, which is weird thing, you know, to happen. And there was like a light coming from nowhere. There was one that was like layered, almost like two pictures.
Ooh.
And again, it's like not something you usually can get on a phone or something like that, or on a professional camera. And then there was also one picture that I'm not sure if it was her or someone, a tour guide, or some, I don't know, you have to look at the video they took, and there was a figure there.
Ooh.
And they said, and I was like, that looks kind of weird, and the clothes and everything was kind of strange. And then she said that there was no one else in the room.
Ooh. Weird.
Yeah, and some
Weird.
people say that they see the statue smiling and stuff like that.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah,
I know. I continue to say I'd like to go over there and like take a look at all these things. It's just a
yeah,
whole thing to go over to Egypt.
yeah, that would be so cool to see.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm just the size of the pyramids and everything.
I
It's
know.
insane.
I just think it'd be really cool to go. Like I know I have a friend guest that is hosting a trip next year, and I'd like to go. I'm just like I don't know. It's just a whole thing to go to Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, she also does some tours.
Oh,
She was
nice.
offering, yeah. I was looking, I was like $6,000 per person. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, how much is? I was like, how much is this one? Because it probably because I think the tour is like one price, right? But then, you got to do the flight and all this. That's additional. It's probably like 2,000 or more to fly over there from here. I'm like, how much is it? Not that, but yeah, I think it's close to what like she's charging like six
yeah,
thousand as
probably.
well. No, can't find it. I was hoping I could find it real quick, but no, no. Okay. Nope. Okay. I thought he would have it posted where I could see, but no. But I
No
think it's
worries.
somewhere like 6,000 and then plus the flight. But then like I think hotel is included, but I don't know about food. Pretty pricey. Pretty pricey for that adventure.
One day,
One day.
yeah, it's on my to-do list together
Yeah.
with Peru and other places.
Yeah, I haven't gone anywhere to go see any of these weird or, ancient
Hmm.
spots, but I'd like to. I'd like to in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even in Northern America, there's some interesting spots.
Mhm. Mhm. I haven't been to any.
Right,
Oh,
welcome.
I went to Sedona before. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've heard of Sedona.
Yeah, I've heard it many times mentioned. Did something paranormal happen there, or?
It's got a lot of what they call not portals, energy vortexes there.
Hmm.
So they have like I guess there's negative vortexes and positive vortexes. Just I mean based on the energy, like pulling or pushing energy. Then there's like some that have both. Um, but when I went out there, it was so crowded because so many people go out there. You couldn't even park to go walk out to these vortexes.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. So that was my closest.
Yeah, but overall, there are quite a few spots even just like near you, like Catalina Island. It's not
Oh
that
yeah, I've
far, I
been there.
guess. There was
No,
some
it's
weird
not far.
stuff going on there, and
Yeah,
even the go on.
I was gonna say it's very easy to get to from like Southern California, Catalina. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And even the TikTok UFO encounter. that happened just off the coast of San Diego, not that far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even when I was there in February, I actually haven't spoke about it on this podcast yet. And so this is more like ghosts and the kind of in the realm of that. So I might as well share it. So, that was pretty
Yeah, might as well.
interesting.
You already started. You might as well
Yeah,
share
yeah.
it.
So I spent a month in San Diego in February. So that was part of, just a lot going on this year. It's super crazy this year. So I was there and I met up with one of my guests that was on my podcast previously, Didi Jabal, who's a dream interpreter and paranormal investigator. It was me, my co-host Delina, Didi and her husband, and we met up in Old Town San Diego, right? And well, the first thing that was really interesting, my friend Delina, she had a dream that morning, and the only thing she could remember were two shotguns on the wall and a sword stuck in the ground, like with the
Hmm.
handle sticking out. She told me that in the morning. I was like, that's interesting. So then we went to a cemetery. First, Didi showed me because Dylan was busy, so it was still daylight. Then we went for a walk around Old Town. It's really nice there, by the way, and there's some old buildings and everything. And then we went to the old sheriff's office, right? And we looked into a window. We looked to a wall on the left. It was right next to a window. There were two shotguns on the wall.
Weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's weird.
and it just keeps getting better. And then we went to get some food. It's really nice. Then we went back to the cemetery. Then it was already dark. And Didi, she did her own thing there, where she like tried to communicate with the ghost, and she took videos and pictures. There's one picture. Might edit it into a podcast. She took three pictures of Delina, but one of them it has something in the bottom left corner, and it's a picture taken by an iPhone. I think it was a bit of flash, and you look at it, and it's like you don't really see phones do something like that. It's the kind of a glitch, or and doesn't look like fog or anything. It was just like this pale thing at the bottom left corner. I can send you the picture later
Yeah, I'd
so you
like
can
to see
see.
it.
Yeah, and since then, a few people who claim to have psychic abilities, they looked at it like, yeah, that's a ghost.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you
and
know,
then
you know.
yeah, because Didi told me that that entire area it's super haunted. Right? Like literally right next to the cemetery, there's the Bailey's house, and it says in front of it, America's most haunted house.
Yeah, that they say that. I haven't been down there myself, but I heard it's pretty haunted in that area.
Yeah, coincidentally enough, what was it like a week or two later? I actually met someone in a hostel, and she had experiences over there. We're friends now, and she also like can sense other things. She even somehow knew that this thing that I wear all the time. She knew right away that it's for my grandma.
Oh, what is it? What if you don't mind me asking? Because I can't tell the shape or
Yeah,
anything.
I don't think we see able to see that well, but it's an anchor for good luck. It's
Mm.
a Christian cross in a heart, I think, for love. And so my grandma gave it to me when I was a kid.
Oh, protection, huh?
So
A protection for protection, huh?
yeah, kind of like that. So I'll just never take it off, just like I. But here's the thing: like when I was talking to this friend, I told her afterwards, like you had basically a 50-50 chance, you know, just like she didn't say anything about this sewing, but she really noticed like there's something about this thing. And she was right, because this ring, it's called an Atlantis ring, right? But it's
Hmm.
something I bought myself.
Mm.
Right? There's a whole story that comes with it, but
Okay. Because I was going to say, well, what is significant about this ring?
I can say when I finish the what
Okay.
I'm sending you cemetery story.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went to cemetery. Didi was doing her own thing, and Delina at some point she was like, I feel something in the corner over there, which we didn't look at before, but when I was there, when I was still light. So like, okay, let's go have a look there. And it was just like at the back to the left, right? You know, like when you enter the cemetery. And we went there. I took a picture of it, and there was just one single grave, and it was like a white cross. There was like lots of plants going around it under a tree, and the cross, even when you look at the picture, it really kind of looks like a sword stuck in the ground with the handle
Oh.
sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then after that, when Didi went home and everything, we went to a car. Telling sat down, me too, and she was like, "Hold on, let's go out. I'm gonna do a cleanse because she's a Reiki healer."
Mm-hmm.
And so she did a cleanse, and she said, like, I felt like some kind of a heavy energy just left.
Mm.
Now, and I wanted to say earlier that Didi told me when she told me about the history of the cemetery, which now is actually smaller than it was. So, like, the road and some of the buildings, they're actually on their graves underneath them, right? And she told me that in '96, all the people around that had businesses or lived there, they got together and put some money towards an exorcism because everyone was experiencing something over there. So it's a really interesting spot, and I'm definitely going back once I'm in the States because in a few weeks well, by the time this is going to be published, I'm going to be already in the States
You
again.
already
So
be here.
yeah,
You already be here and in the cemetery looking at stuff.
yeah. Let's see what happens there again.
No, that's interesting because they always say, right, like in Poltergeist, if you disturb the grave, it makes the spirits angry, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
true. My friend, she mentioned some ghosts of spirits of little kids, and there is
ooh,
actually
creepy.
one grave of a really small child in there. And there's also someone who got, I think, executed around Civil War, somewhere around that time. So it's definitely an interesting place.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. Like even myself, I'm from here, from California. I haven't even
mm.
been down to that area.
Yeah. Me to sort something out when I'm there.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's interesting. It sounds like your friend had like a precognitive dream about what was going to happen and what you guys were going to see the next day.
yeah, yeah. That's for sure. I mean, to be
And I'm
fair,
glad.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say I'm glad that you guys got cleared of whatever energy was there too.
Yeah, actually, weirdly enough, but in my previous job that I just quit, the last month or two, something like that, there was a new colleague that came to us, and she claimed to have also some psychic abilities where she can see auras on people, which turned out to be pretty accurate. We had like a really weird guy come in, and all of us just sensed like really bad energy. We got him sacked in like 2 or 3 days. But I showed her a picture of that I took of Delina as she like shortly after she did the cleanse,
Yeah.
and she said that she could see some kind of being like have their hand on her shoulder.
Creepy.
Yeah,
Creepy. The thing is, right, I think, right, with all this, right, as much as people are like, well, ghosts, blah, I don't know if ghosts are real or whatever, but there is something there. There is something. There is energies out there, and they can attach to people, and it's no joke. I know a lot of it's become very popular for people just speaking, just going out and kind of going into these places. And when you went with a Reiki healer, and psychic. So you have a little more, people who are more knowledgeable about these things.
know at
But
least something like what to do in these cases.
yeah, because I've seen people go out to these places, even paranormal investigators that know what they're doing, and they will antagonize the spirits or try to make them angry, and which is probably not really smart. You got to respect the ghost, or they're gonna get
Yeah,
you.
yeah. There's definitely something going on. The big problem that people have when thinking about these kinds of things is their assumption of what reality is and how it works is probably not correct. Because if you think of the universe like this materialistic thing where consciousness just exists within our brains, it's like a byproduct of what was going on in our brains, and it just spontaneously appeared during the Big Bang, and there's no meaning to anything. And it's like there's not really no space for things like these.
Hmm.
Fact
Hmm.
of the matter is that these things have been around with us since dawn of age. Like it's always
I
been
agree.
around. You talk to people, like I've spoken to people who have never been interested in these kinds of things, and they still tell me they have some kind of experience. And you know, if you're at least a bit tuned into yourself, you can tell when someone's lying. And for me, like especially I don't know, last I don't know how many years, my BS meter is fairly good. I can tell like if someone's being authentic or not. And I can
Yeah.
tell that people would they generally experience this stuff. And I had experiences myself where I had lots of precognitive dreams, and somehow I just come across people telling me this stuff. you know, and it's definitely something to it.
I definitely agree with that. There is something to it, and there are a lot of, and like you bring it up, there are a lot of BS stories out
Yeah,
there,
of
and
course.
especially when you're doing this type of work, you do encounter a lot of those people, and then you encounter the real people that have had these real experiences, and it is quite different. It is quite different when you speak to those people. So, you've always been sensitive then.
I think it just got better over the last mm, 5 years, give or
Mm,
take.
mm-hmm,
I guess I always had um, the interest in it, and for the most part, it was like mainly dreams,
mm-hmm,
those kinds of things that were happening to me. I remember like even years ago when I was in my teens or so, I had some precognitive dreams
mm-hmm.
over the years as well, and especially this year or so, it just full on crazy
It's
stuff
just,
like this.
it's sounds like it ramped up.
Oh yeah, totally. So I could talk hours about this stuff. Like even now, I actually also had some seances. I actually met with this medium, super lovely person today, and just to chat. But I had two seances with her, and then
Woo!
one personal session. This was the
Mm,
first time I ever had something like this. One in September, then in March when I came from the States, and I think in May when I had a personal session with her. And first time we met, I was careful, skeptical. And I was making sure that I don't say anything to her that she could like make use of the info somehow. We didn't have any common friends at that point. We didn't follow each other on Facebook. Nothing. None of us actually. There was four of us plus the medium.
mm-hmm.
None of us knew anything about each other really. Even the people that I've been there with, two of them I've met for the first time on the seance, you know, and it's crazy because each one of us, there was this one girl, and she was also I could feel that she's very skeptical. She ended up crying
Oh
during the
wow,
seance.
wow.
Yeah, and later on, most of the stuff that she was saying just came true. Like one of the first messages that I got. And on the first seance, there was a very short message like, "You need to study." I was like, "What?" Yeah, because like going to back to uni or something like that's a no way. Like studying again, just some stuff just because someone tells me I need to study it. Giving the deadlines and like it's not for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if I'm not interested in something, or I work the best when I got lots of freedom. So
Hmm.
researching things because I want to in my own pace, in my own time. I love it, but not, and especially everything that's going on with academia and uh, yeah. So I was thinking like, well, and she mentioned it could be a course, right? Then she also mentioned healing. I should look
Hmm.
into it. Which, really enough, in that time I was listening to a lot of podcasts about healing and like alternative energy healing, that kind of stuff. And it was weird that she mentioned it because I didn't speak to people about it much. Right? And yeah, this was September. In November, I started doing a course in project management on Coursera online. And I think it was maybe a week or two after I enrolled in it, and I was already doing it. I was like, hang on. I was told to study, and here I am doing a course which back then I didn't have any idea I would be doing.
That's so funny. So she called it. She called it.
Yeah, it was really strange. Then, hold on, what else was that? Then there was, then she predicted one pregnancy that was super accurate. You know,
Wow.
before it happened, before anyone knew. And on the one session that I had with her, this was before I booked my flights or before I didn't even give my hold on. I think it was even before I quit my job. And I definitely didn't give my notice to my landlady at that point. So I just came to her house. We sat down in the kitchen, and if the first thing she tells me is that you're gonna move soon, aren't you? She's like, I was, what? Yeah.
So she knew before you knew. Really, huh?
Well, I already knew that I would go away, but it wasn't sure. Like, there's a lot more uncertainty at that point than it is now. But throughout
Wow.
the conversation, she said, like, you're gonna be gone before the end of summer. I said to her, end of summer, it's like end of August over here, right? Because the summer is very short over here in Sweden. And she's like, yes. Well, I got my flight booked for August 23rd, which I booked only like a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks or so. He said I'll go very far away. Well,
It's far.
yeah, yeah, like
Wow.
at least 10,000 kilometers or something like that across the ocean. Um, oh yeah, the small details, but it all adds up. Like I was selling my 7-string guitar, electric guitar. It's nice Black Jackson, and it was already on Blocket, which is like the Swedish version of eBay. Right,
Okay, okay.
it was already there. And I said to her like, "Yeah, I need to just sell my guitar now." And the first thing she said straight away it was like, "Don't take the first offer." I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
So I kept it in mind. And then a few weeks later, because no one was buying you or anything, I changed the prices. So someone messaged me in the morning, like, I'm going to buy it for 6,500 krona. So roughly $630 or something like that.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that's enough money, right? Good sum. Even though I paid like almost $900 for it. I was like, well, I should do. But then I remember what she said to me. I was like, hang on. So I told him, like, it's a good guitar, it's in good state. 7,000 krona is my last offer. And he bought it.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. that that just kind of proves that this lady, your friend, is a pretty accurate reader, huh?
Yeah, very accurate. I
Very
mean, it's
accurate.
pretty insane.
Some
But
people are just so connected, and then they're able to read you, and just like, I mean, the guitar thing is that I don't know, that one got me out of the whole. I was like, yeah, I'm moving, okay, but it was very specific about not taking the first offer.
yeah,
Very interesting.
I was
Some
close to actually taking it. I was like, that's enough money. But then I remember what she said, and it worked out.
man.
There was also other things that even she said to the other people that were there. She got really right, and there was like again, I was skeptical. I always am. Even like recently, I did a podcast, which is gonna come out after this one with
Hmm.
Nicole Starbuck. Who's also a psychic from Houston, Texas,
Nice.
and in her case, she did like a quick reading, which is also super accurate. And same with Mario, my medium. I'm always, like I said, skeptical, making sure that I don't even like when they tell me something, I don't even nod or show any expressions to like confirm what
Yeah.
they're saying or anything. I just just listen, nothing else.
Yeah, keep a poker face, right? So
Yeah,
they can't, because there is, cold reading, and some people are really good at that, and that has nothing to
yeah,
do with psychic ability, but just being able to read a person.
yeah. But
So,
the details both of them it came up, whether it's in my case or these other people, my friends over there. That there was no way she could have known about that
yeah.
stuff.
No, it's quite amazing when people can read really well, because I've had horrible readings that are totally off before, from people. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, okay. And I just smile and I finish the reading. I go, okay, thank you. But it's like totally off, and you're like, all
Mm.
right, this is not right. So, when they're good, they're very good. And sometimes when they're bad, they're really bad.
Yeah, definitely. And in case of this medium, like we could all feel that she had like really good energy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not just being very authentic and everything. And also something that I actually talked about this today with her, and something that also other people mentioned to me. Like if your medium cannot remember what she told you, what she channeled, that means she's authentic. And we noticed that on the second seance, after she left, me and my friends were talking about this because we noticed that she remembered what she told us months earlier about her son, but she didn't remember the stuff that she channeled and the information she gave us.
Mm-hmm.
She
Mm-hmm.
generally you could tell that she just didn't remember when it
Mm-hmm.
came to it.
Yeah, no, because if it just comes like straight in, it goes straight out, right? Because it didn't
Yeah,
come from her.
yeah. And she told me today, like when someone thanks her, for example, like after the session, he's like, yeah, okay, but has no idea what she said to them or anything. But if they ask a follow up question or anything like something like that, then she channels the information again and she taps into it. So she knows again, like what the person is talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. No, it sounds really good. I'm quite amazed. I like to hear good channeling and psychic reading stories.
Yeah, super fascinating. I've never had any experience with these kind of things before. It just, like I said, September. Then after I came, and it just keep. It's just more and more all the time.
You're deep into this world now, and it'll just get more and more experiences. The more you play in these realms, the more the realms play with you.
Yeah, obviously gotta be careful with this stuff as well.
100%.
'Cause,
100%.
yeah, like even when you mentioned earlier, these kind of things can follow you or something like it remind me. Sorry, it reminded me of what George Knapp was saying. I just listened to him recently when he was mentioning the first research when Robert Bigelow was owning
Hmm.
Skinwalker Ranch, when legit scientists came there to study it, and they also experienced these things like coming back to their house and
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah, I think what they call it the hitchhiker phenomenon, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yes. So, right. So if a skinwalker is just a very powerful place where there's like a tear in the fabric of reality where these things are, right? There's smaller ones, right, where there's still these entities and energies that can still follow you even in smaller places. So it's interesting, and it's I'm kind of surprised, I guess it's not more spoken about outside of this community, that there's been actually a lot of research done there, you know. So, but I guess with time, I don't know if you watched that show, the Skinwalker show they have now.
no.
I haven't either. I was wondering, maybe you watched it.
I heard about it, and um, maybe I saw some clips from it. But this one of the researchers that he's there, I really like him. I heard his like talk that he had, and he's not just some random schmuck or anything like it.
Yeah.
He's a super smart guy. I think he worked for NASA as well at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's it's super interesting. Skinwalker is interesting, and I wonder if there's a lot more. I wonder if there's more places like this on our planet, in the
probably.
that are very active like this.
Well, I heard George Nampton saying that it's not just that spot, that ranch, where it's like the whole Ubinta basis of what it's called, basin, yeah,
Yeah,
the
there's
whole
a
area.
yeah. I know. I kind of know, like, through podcasting and stuff, like Second Degree, but I know people who own a property that's next to it, and they call it
Mm.
Skywolf Ranch, I think. But they've been doing a lot of investigations and trying to like record phenomenon because it's in that same area. But
Hmm.
I haven't followed up with that. But it sounds interesting. It's an interesting area.
Yeah, that's for sure. And there's definitely stuff happening there. I remember in one case there were like two poles. Each one of them had cameras, and there were like multiple cameras and looking at each other. And one of them got somehow messed up anyway, and no one knew like how, what, and there was nothing on
Didn't see
the
it.
no strange stuff.
Certain so strange, and yeah, I mean, more than like we can't record and research like these lights in the sky as much as they have this physical place, like a Skinwalker, where they can actually do a lot of research and like scientific recording and testing at this spot, which I find very interesting, and I hope that more research comes out of there and experiences.
Yeah, that's for sure. But it's these kind of things really push science to the edge in many ways because many times when I listen to some of the scientists, whether it was to do with skinwalker ranch or something else, or UFOs, yeah,
Hmm.
they kind of approaching it in a way like studying some kind of a natural phenomena, where
Hmm.
it's not a natural phenomena. You're dealing with some kind of intelligence there that's possibly more more advanced than ours.
Hmm.
So like in at Skinwalker Ranch, all these things that happen there. The scientists were saying that it's got a trickster element to it, and that it just
Yeah.
messes with you in crazy ways, and which obviously, if something is if something perhaps even knows what you're trying to do, or perhaps even somehow has precognitive abilities or knows what your thoughts are, stuff like that, how can you study it properly?
You
Because
can't.
there's always some kind of interaction, and it's not like doing like a placebo controlled study or something like that. It's totally different.
Yeah, no, the whole trickster element to it is even more fascinating to me, right? And when you think about this whole trickster element of things and whatever the being, entity, or energy it is, it's able to also kind of look into your consciousness in your mind and take projections of what you think it should look like. So that is like what we were talking about a little bit earlier. This stuff is older than we know. It's been here as long as we have. That's kind of what I feel is what we're dealing with, or what is here.
Yeah. In some way, it again comes down to like what's the nature of reality,
Mhm.
right? It's probably not like I was saying that consciousness exists within a big vast universe and just like a byproduct of a bunch of neurons working together. It's more like the other way around. That seems
Mm.
more likely. And with that explanation that the universe and reality, everything that we perceive, because at the end of the day, we cannot prove that there's anything that exists outside of consciousness. Because everything that we perceive goes through consciousness, right?
Yes.
So there's no way of figuring that out. That's one thing. And um, within the because at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out a model that describes what we see outside in nature and within us as well more correctly, right? Some kind of
Mm.
model. That's all that is, whether it's theory or relativity, quantum gravity, or whatever. It's all just models, and we're trying to get a more accurate one.
Mhm.
Now,
Mhm.
with these kind of things, there's a lot of things that just, like I was saying earlier, we cannot fit into a materialistic reductionist worldview. But if we take this idea, which kind of aligns also with what ancient other civilizations were talking about or philosophies, whether it's Buddhists, Hindus, Taoists, the idea that consciousness is fundamental and everything else exists within it, including all the stars and just everything that we perceive. That makes more sense, and then you can include a lot all these phenomena we can't normally explain within this model. Actually, one of the this was really fascinating that I heard someone say. This guy was, I think I just randomly saw it on TikTok or something like that.
Mhm.
And this guy was saying that nature gave us a big hint with our dreams.
Mm.
Because when you are dreaming, you basically, within the dream, it's you, like this,
Mhm.
experiencing an external reality. The people you meet in your dream and the environment, it seems external to you. But what you are perceiving is all just mind within the
Yes.
dream. So there might be a bit of like a model of what's going on even when you are awake.
Right. Right. Like, man, wah, right? Like, wow.
Yeah.